Hello and welcome to another episode of Pod Maverick After Dark. I am Kirk Henderson, editor-in-chief over at Mavs Moneyball, and I am joined by my co-editor and longtime co-host, Josh Bowe. What's going on, man?
Early games. This
is just such dad core.
It's 7 o'clock. This is awesome. Sorry that it was a bad Mavs game, but this is
really
otherwise.
Well, so it's funny. The 4 o'clock start time. I cannot remember another 4 o'clock start time.
Did they start? I feel like they had another early Sunday game.
They do a lot of mid-afternoon ones, but it's usually 1 to 2. 4 is weird.
Yeah, I don't know what was going on in Indiana today. Maybe
very well. Well, Indiana.
It was a concert.
Would you believe that Indiana is in the East Coast time zone?
Wait, really?
Really? Look it up on a map. It is.
I should know that.
No. The only reason I know this is because I've driven across the country like 4 times, and your clock switches over, and your phone switches over when you hit. And it's like I remember being in Indiana, and being like, "What the fuck? It is 9:30, and it is light outside, and we're talking like PM."
I'm just saying I should know this because my real life job's headquarters is in Indianapolis. So like half the people I talk to during the day are in Indianapolis. So that's pretty funny.
Well, it's very weird. It's a weird state. Shout out to French Lick and the home of Larry Bird and the All-Star game this year. Well, the Dallas Mavericks went there on a Sunday afternoon game and proceeded to just they hung around for most of the game, hung around. They'd make some good plays, make some really horrendous, life-alteringly maddening plays, and then they'd be right back in it. It was a real yo-yo game after the first quarter. Luka Doncic looked to be the only one who was awake for a significant stretch of this game, which is kind of a bit of a role reversal, quite candidly. Like there's usually when the Mavericks have bad games, it's because Luka's having an off game and other people are playing pretty good and they just can't keep up. And this game sort of went that way, on and off. Is a very odd and kind of frustrating game to watch. Fourth quarter started with Kyrie 5 of 15 from the floor. I tweeted out something sassy like, hey, this would be a great time for Kyrie Irving to find his shot. And he made, I think, his first 4 baskets. Mm-hmm. Pulled the Mavericks within 4. Rick Carlisle, master of timeout momentum murder, calls the timeout. I'm pretty sure it's 104-100 with Indiana leading. They connect on 2 straight threes coming out of the timeout, and the game was effectively over at that point. They proceeded to run the Mavericks off the court as they just bombarded from beyond the arc.
Yeah, it was coming. Indiana entered the third quarter, and they're a good 3-point shooting team. They entered the third quarter 8 of 26 from 3. That's 30%. They finished 14 of 36. So they shot 6 of 10 from 3 in the fourth quarter. That was basically, I was kind of like, when the third quarter ended, I was like, I think the Mavericks can win, but the Pacers are going to have to keep shooting blanks from beyond the 3-point arc, and that did not happen. So the shot variance reared its ugly head in the fourth quarter for sure. But there's much deeper things we can talk about.
There were 3 or 4 points in this game where it felt like the Mavericks had opportunities to take control, and they simply didn't. After a 7-game win streak, it's a little bit frustrating to see them go out on a bit of a dud. But again, 7-game win streak where there's a lot of good basketball played. One of the things that was kind of pointed out to me in the YouTube comments on this, where it was like, you guys were pretty grumpy for a win following the Pacers game. And really, they specifically meant me just because of some of the complaints that I had about the game, the Phoenix game, that is. And this game was one where I didn't find myself too frustrated, if only because the things which led to the loss were very clear cut. And for a couple of role players who play, like there were multiple Dallas role players. So your non-Kyrie Irving, non-Luka Doncic players who really played horrendous stretches of basketball in this game.
Yeah. Funny enough, the box score does not look that dissimilar from the Suns win in terms of it was another Luka Kyrie show. But unfortunately, the other things that don't always show up in the box score killed them. Turnovers were the big thing. That's what lost them this game. They had 10 turnovers against the Suns. They had 16 turnovers against the Pacers. I mean,
and who had half of those turnovers is really where the loss lies.
Yes, they 8 of the 16. I believe they had 15 individual turnovers, and the 16 was a team turnover at the end of the game. So really, true turnovers, it was 15-12. So if the Mavericks lose the turnover battle by 3, that's pretty bad because that's kind of one of their ace in the holes. They always win the turnover battle every single game, even when they lose. They usually have less turnovers. But yeah, like you said, where they were concentrated, 8 of the 15 were PJ Washington and Tim Hardaway Jr., which is just you just can't have that. Those guys losing the ball when they're not necessarily creating offense or creating offense for others. They're play finishers, not play starters. When your play finishers are turning the ball over a lot, that's just bad. That's bad because you're gonna get some turnovers from Luka. You're gonna get some from Kyrie. That's just baked in. Green's probably gonna have some too because those guys try to create and do things with the ball. With Washington and Tim Hardaway Jr., those guys should be touching the ball in situations where they are getting up good shots for the most part. And combined, not only did they combine for 8 turnovers, they shot 5 of 18 from the floor. So a disastrous performance by both of those guys.
Which guy do you want to start with? Because again, I'm trying to take some of the feedback.
Is for Hardaway. I'm
trying to take some of the feedback that we get on the show seriously because again, I appreciate our fans. I appreciate the people. We had one guy who left 3 different frustrated comments with us, and I know it's always challenging. You don't want to read too deep into any of the comments, but I also think that when it comes to customer service, sometimes your comments and the things you hear, you don't hear from the other 90% of the people. And so I don't want to be too negative because again, it's one loss after a 7-game roadie, but there. Let's talk about PJ first, and then we can kind of come back to Tim after the break. For me, PJ simply can't do what he did tonight in terms of if you're going to be – he was not very good on defense, A. And so if you're not very good on defense and you are only – it's 1 of 6 from the floor, right?
Yep, 0 of 3 from 3.
So he started off the game with a pick and roll from Luka, or his first and only make was a really nice pick and roll floater that he hit from about 8 feet.
He's good with floaters.
And then the other shots that he got were open threes, which he missed. So, if you haven't shot a basketball in a while, guys, go stand on the side and take a shot from the side. If you're missing off the front of the rim, your shot sucks. Okay, and he missed, I want to say, 3 off the front of the rim, which in terms of fast break, that essentially kickstarts a fast break because the ball's going long. You're all the way in the corner as a shooter, so you got 94 feet to run, and a lot of his shots were just awful looking. And
missed corner 3 is probably the worst type of missed shot you can have in terms of
he's gonna have to hit these shots if the Mavericks are going to go anywhere in closer games. It hasn't bit them so far because Luka and Kyrie and other players have played pretty well, but he's got to keep defenses honest. And I am having from a basketball mechanics thing. And again, this is ridiculous because these are NBA players and my experience working with my 7-year-old is not really comparable, but I've been trying to work with him with his shot. And it's very missing closer shots and hitting farther away shots for someone who was a bad shooter when I played, meaning me, is baffling to me. So watching PJ hit these above the break dribble up threes like he did I think he hit 2 against Phoenix, and then miss these wide open corner, just catch in the pocket, shoot 3-pointers is very frustrating to see. There's no other, there's simply nothing to be done about it other than to say he must hit these shots.
Yeah, when we first talked about the trade and when I wrote my piece about the trade deadline, I remember including a very specific part about how he was shooting poorly, and that was being brought up as why that was a bad trade for the Mavericks, was how poorly he'd been shooting this season and how kind of inconsistent he'd been with his three in his career. And I tried to counter that with I didn't think his three-point shooting mattered as much as the other stuff, presumably the pump and go drive and kick game that he had. Not necessarily drive and kick, but just just being able to attack closeouts, which is something that this Mavericks team in the Luka era, just their role players just haven't been able to do that for almost the entirety of the Luka era. So just having someone that can attack a closeout, score maybe a floater in the paint, get to the rim, maybe pass to the weak side to keep the offense going matters, because I felt like NBA defenses are getting too good with just letting these 3-and-D shooters shoot open threes. Like they're just like, we're going to take that away from you because we don't think you can we don't think you can hurt us when we take away your open threes.
Yeah.
So I still think that matters and I still believe in that. But the way I couched it was like, he still needs to make some threes. Like he still needs to shoot a little bit. Like he still needs to be like a 34% shooter from three or 35. Like he
was 0-3 today. He needed to hit one of the ones he took.
Yes. He cannot be a sub 30% 3-point shooter. He can't, because then we're getting to the point where defenses don't even let him attack a closeout because they're not closing out to him. And then that's what's happening to Derek Jones Jr. If you've noticed, he's kind of come back down to earth because teams are like, oh, he's not hitting all of his threes against us. Why are we even letting him drive to the basket? They're going to let him shoot. And that's kind of what they've been doing. If you've noticed, Derek Jones Jr. has basically just stopped scoring points over the last 3 weeks. So yeah, he has to hit threes. He is, what is he in his time since he's been traded to Dallas? He is 4 of 21 from three in 5 games. That is not good. He is shooting under 20% from three for the month of February, which
the
also
shot quality, that's something we don't have access to shot quality. I may ask someone who gets who sees the second spectrum data, because I wouldn't be shocked if on his made threes he has been wide open on half. So
yeah, I wouldn't be surprised either. Yeah. But yeah, he's not shooting well from the corners. He's not shooting well on catch and shoots. And again, I think they can get around. I don't think he needs to be elite at that. I don't even think he needs to be great or even good.
Got to keep you honest.
Average. Yeah, you just got to be average. And he's so far below average that you just can't live like that. You just can't. Yeah. He is shooting 33. I think this is before today's game. He's shooting 33% on catch and shoot threes. That's just
that's horrible.
That's not good.
This is a average, great. So I just told myself I wasn't going to read the comments as much during the video, but this one made me laugh. PJ Singh says PJ is a bust, Prince Singh says PJ is a bust. I don't know a single Hornets fan that is sad to see him go. Prince, I don't know a single Hornets fan. So congratulations to you for a wide variety of friend fandom. Okay, so we'll be give me just a second here. So, in a loss, we tend to get much fewer viewers, listeners, etc. There's only 160 people in here. But if you could do me a favor while you are watching the show, if you could go ahead and hit the like on the stream, Josh and I would appreciate that. Leave a comment to the video once it's posted. Those of you here on the live show, those of you listening, if you could subscribe, if you're coming to the podcast through the Mavs Moneyball website, subscribe. We do one of these shows after every game, and at this point in the season, I'm trying to do the secondary live show almost after every game. We're going to do one tonight. It will be a group therapy for those of you who want to get your takes off, those of you who are mad. It's much more productive to come on this show and yell than to type into the void and to get into internet arguments with folks like my friend Matt Moore. All right, if you would then watch or listen to these ads that are going to be inserted for everyone who except international fans, Josh and I will be right back. Wasn't that a great break at about the 14-minute mark? Okay, so the Tim Hardaway of it all. I have been thinking about Tim almost nonstop since the Suns game because I was just so surprised at some of the intensity of which and granted, everybody watches the game differently, but that's what's really fun about doing these live shows is you see people, we all watch the same thing, and then often you'll take away very different items. And a lot of people didn't understand, at least during the previous live show, were very like hung up on me being confused about kid playing Hardaway. And this is during the win streak, Tim has been horrid. And he once again, this is the first game where it really bit them and get a lot of run. And I mean, 23 minutes, 4 12 shootings, 3 of 6 from 3, which meant he took 6 2-pointers,
which is usually not good. That's
not good for him. And had the 4 turnovers. And I just, you know, one of my friends on Twitter is basically like, you and Josh always talk about his gravity. And it's like, well, we talk about it in the sense of we think he's important to the team when he's hitting, but we are also honest enough now to talk about with the team that they have. You know, if you have Hardy, who's able to hit some threes, Josh Green, who's able to hit some threes on these real clear catch and shoot threes, not necessarily your live grenades. Kid's got to tighten the rope that he gives the guy. Like he just can't keep playing him like this. I mean, Tim goes in, bad things happen.
Yeah, I mean, funny enough, someone right before we started recording called me a homer for my Tim Hardaway Jr. takes on Twitter, and I thought that was pretty funny because I was like, can you tell other people that? That would help me out in a lot of tough situations. But yeah, he's been bad, and I know everyone is out for blood, and I'm not going to try to sit here and have that conversation again. We're talking about his gravity because they lost. They lost by 20. They looked bad when he was on the floor. He made 4 shots. He had 4 turnovers. For a player like him, who again is a play finisher, not a play starter, that's egregious. Like you cannot turn the ball over that many times. And while you're also missing 8 out of your 12 shots, he's shooting about 32% from 3 in the month of February. He's shooting like 35% overall. He's averaging about 10 points a game. Like he's been bad. And the funny part is, like, me and you have never, you know, when we talk about Tim's value to the team, it's always been his volume 3-point shooting.
Yep.
Like me and you have been on the same page that he is one of the most harmful defenders on the team.
Yes.
And he's been like that since he's been here. Like he occasionally gives some good effort in some one-on-one situations, but as a team defender, like working within a team concept and making rotations,
he manages to make the wrong
scheme,
choice almost every time.
Yeah, he is. Watch Tim Hardaway Jr. off ball on defense. It is not pretty. If he's not taking a charge, he is not doing a lot.
If there was a thought bubble above his head, it would be going fuck.
Yeah,
because his timing's usually off. He's either delayed a step or he goes the wrong place, or he ends up kind of because he ended up on the Pacers' best player a lot when he was on the floor tonight.
You think that was by design?
Oh yeah,
Rick Carlisle.
I mean, that was Rick Carlisle. You know, micro targeting.
Yeah,
Timmy.
There was a funny possession in I think it was the first half, and I saw Kyrie Irving was guarding Mathurin, and Mathurin is a very young, talented scorer, and I was like, why are you putting Kyrie on him? And then he made a pass to the corner to Nembhard, who was wide open, and Tim is standing like 20 feet away, and Tim was guarding Nembhard. I was like, oh, I guess that's why, because you don't want Tim, on Mathurin. And the Mavericks are getting into these situations where, you know, Tim is playing a lot of minutes with either Kyrie or Luka, or all 3 of them are playing a lot together. And it's just, when Tim's making threes, you can get away with that. But if he is not making shots, the minutes he plays next to the 2 stars, like his bad defense just compounds upon itself. Yep. Because even with Luka's better effort, and with whenever Kyrie, you know, Chip, you know, whatever you want to say about Kyrie's defense, like having all 3 of those guys on the floor at the same time, if you are not out shooting and outscoring the other team, there's going to be some problems. And I think you saw that in the second half and in the fourth quarter. Like he's just, you know, there's people that are smarter than me about this stuff that tell me that Tim is not that toxic of a defender, and he's at best, you know, like an average defender. And
no, he's not.
I don't see it. So like when I defend Tim, it's the volume 3-point shooting. Like the defense is bad. There was a comment, granted, it's like 3 weeks old, and this is not a slight or an argument, but sometimes I read through other Dallas media folks mention sometimes. And I was watching the ticket
the tickets Bob Sturm debating with somebody about Tim's Hardaway's defense, and he said, well, NBA people have told me that he's average. He's just fine. And folks are arguing back. And I sent that to a couple of different people that I know that do this for a living, basically cover the NBA, analyze. We're just, doing multiple like different things as we try to watch these games. And the person said back to me, that's just proof you can get NBA people to tell you anything, which made me laugh. Tim tries hard. So that
the thing about Tim
effort is not the point at a certain point.
There are two types of bad defenders: ones that choose not to defend, and ones that don't know how to defend. And I think Tim is the latter.
Yes,
which is a little because I don't know how you fix that. Like he's been in the league long enough to know better about this stuff. So that's not good. And the Mavericks had 15 assists and 15 turnovers. When was the last time this team did not have more assists than turnovers?
Pacers had 38 assists, in case you were curious. Shout out to my man Henry. He sent us a $5 donation.
Wow, awesome!
I don't know if you saw that in there. He said THJ needs to play in Bangladesh. Kid needs to be buried under the American Airlines Center. It doesn't matter how much we improve this roster, we still get outcoached. That was a pretty funny comment. I like that one. Henry comes on the live show sometimes too, so thank you, Henry. It's very kind of you. But beyond those two players, you kind of go through everything else. There was a lot of things that happened tonight that were very different. Friend of the show, Bobby Corrales, said that where's my cell phone? He basically told me that kid switched Carlisle basically willingly switched people onto Luka and Kyrie all night long.
There was not a lot for them in the pick and roll.
Mm-hmm.
And they were letting those guys score.
Yeah, and that really seemed to jank up the offense to a degree. I mean, this was I think collectively in the last several weeks, Derek Lively and Daniel Gafford's like worst combined output. They had 12 points and 8 rebounds between them. Lively did have 4 steals, which was interesting. Gafford, of course, he got credited with 1 late block, but they were effectively neutered, and it was very painful watching Miles Turner, local product. He went to your high school, scored 32. How many points did the man have? 33 points. Good Lord.
Season high. I believe.
He was, let's see here. He hit 8 2-point shots.
Yes.
Like that's just, you're going to lose.
He was 3 of 3 from mid-range.
He wasn't that good from 3. It felt like he killed people from 3. He's 2 of 7 from 3.
No, he made a lot of mid-range. He made I called it to our friend Austin. We were talking about it before we started recording. I called him pop a shot mid-range jumpers. They were so open, those little free throw. And he's a big guy with long arms. So when he shot those little free throw line jumpers, it really did look like he was shooting a pop a shot ball because it was just so easy and effortless. So anytime he set a screen and kind of rolled, but didn't roll all the way and kind of stopped right around the free throw line, there was no one there. No one there to guard him.
Yeah.
So they executed their pick and roll game to a T. Yeah, the Lively thing's interesting. There's kind of 2 things with Lively. I don't know which one to talk about first, but defensively, this is kind of a pattern for him against teams that have bigs that can shoot. His defensive impact just isn't the same. He did have 4 steals tonight, which was nice.
He started challenging shots better in the second half.
As the game went on, yeah.
He in transition, he would do the classic. This is what you're taught from the time you're 8 years old on, when you're the biggest kid on the team. You run your butt back and you get in front of the rim.
Yeah.
And there were 2 different times when he's doing that, and Miles Turner just stops at the 3-point line and shoots a 3-point. And he was like, oh, he did a much better job of getting back on defense and then getting out to the 3-point line when he played in the second half. But ultimately, it just didn't matter.
Yeah. And the other thing, and so we'll see, that's one of those things where it's it's a thing, but he just turned 20 and he did not guard Miles Turner types in college.
No, or ever.
Yes. So he's just going to get used to that with more time. And I think he's got quick enough feet that he might not be someone you always want to guard stretch bigs all the time, but he will get better at that as time goes on and he gets more reps. The other thing with Lively is This is now his third straight game under double figure scoring. Second straight game where he's only taken 3 shot attempts. I'm kind of thinking about it. Do you see something offensively where do you feel like teams are kind of like, okay, we're kind of tired of these lively, like easy lobs and dunks in the pick and roll with Luka? Like, it feels like there's been a shift from opposing defenses that are like, I don't care if Luka scores a little runner in the lane, like no more lively lobs, like no more lively.
I think there's something to that. Like, there's a gentleman in the chat just talked about how he thinks Luka needs to distribute the ball more, and get people involved earlier, which I always think is a discussion worth having. But if Luka's getting these close shots, they're daring. Like, Luka's, I argue with people about this all the time. Luka's first instinct is to pass the ball. He can score at will. He has 35 points a game. He's leading the NBA in scoring. But I'm telling you, he wants to make the highlight pass. But he will take the shot if it's there, obviously. And I think there's something to this, about what they're doing early in games. I mean, I'm reading in the comments that Jason Kidd said in postgame that they need to get Kyrie Irving. Like, he needs to have the ball earlier more. Okay, fine. Like, the Mavericks do maybe need to mix it up a little bit with some of their attack. But, the problem is when you win 7 games in a row, when you score 35 points a game, you're going to be loath to try something new, because why would you try something new when it works? And so I think that there's something to what you're saying about they're limiting these pick and roll opportunities a little bit more.
I don't disagree that he needs, like, everyone wants to see Luka pass to his teammates and get them involved. But, like, today, like, I don't, like, well, is he supposed to pass to people that aren't open? Like,
frankly, like, there was a lineup at one point where Kidd had Luka, Tim, Derek Jones Jr., I'm pretty sure it's PJ Washington, and Maxey on the floor. The only person other than Luka who will take an open shot, like, kind of willingly, was Hardaway. And so it's these sort of things, when you lose a game, you want to overanalyze everything. I do that, Lord knows. And Kidd was just really reaching because nothing was working. Their pick and roll coverage was garbage across the board. I swear to Christ, I love Josh Green. He played a pretty good game today, but someone, Panda Hank, needs to make a supercut of that guy hitting a screen. He just dies on high screen and rolls. He cannot get over them. It's really frustrating.
I know.
It's really frustrating.
He can't, but the one thing I'll say, because I know people get mad, but I'll just counter that with saying at least he is doing something on the other end of the floor to at least mitigate it, because that's been a thing all season. Because earlier in the season, he was scoring 14 points across 4 games and also having that issue with screen navigation. Now, he is a very confident offensive player now. I mean, he's been pretty awesome for about since January. Since about the first week of January till now, he's been shooting. I mean, he's shooting 56 and 50, 56, 50, 93 in the month of February, which is pretty crazy. But not to, I agree with you. His screen navigation, that's got to be his summer.
It's a specific complaint related to their defense, not so much about how his play as a whole, but you get killed on that first screen. You were just talking about, what are defenses doing differently to where Luka is not able to get downhill and throw this easy lob? Like, Luka, and granted, some of this might be on Luka because of how he's using the screens, but it's like rarely do defenders ever die on screens like that when Luka has the ball. I never see it in comparison to what I see Josh do, where he just is right into a screen and then it's like, where did that come from?
Yeah,
it is what it is. I mean, Green mostly played a very good game. It's just the downhill effects of getting hung up on a screen like he does and like Hardaway does is really bad to the defense.
Yeah, because you don't want to rotate when you don't need to rotate. Like rotations are not great when you got, because you're basically playing 4 on.
Well, you go through it. It's like who else?
You just can't cover everyone.
Like Gafford can't really guard in space. Okay,
Ooh, he had a bad defensive
game
today.
Right. So it's like things went downhill so quickly and they just didn't have any answer. And the answer was to try different lineups involving Maxey and some of their defensive players, but then their offense was crap.
Maxey played 25 minutes. So like, I don't think anyone, probably the minutes, if you're looking at minutes, probably would have given Lively more than 14 because I think he was starting to figure some things out. And then, Timmy playing 23 is hard on a night where he's not giving you anything on offense. And then you combine that with PJ playing 31. His defense was okay. Like Siakam didn't have he was guarding Siakam for most of the day, and Siakam was fine, not like amazing. But it was just, it was just a tough game all the way around. It really felt like kind of Luka and Kyrie like fighting against the tide, the rising tide.
Right.
And they just didn't, outside of Green, they just had nothing. No one had really anything.
I wouldn't be shocked if we were to go look at the Pacers record against the Mavericks since Carlisle left, and it's probably pretty good. He's good in these single game situations. I mean, look at the Mavericks getting up on the Clippers several years ago. Like Rick Carlisle is an outstanding basketball coach. Is what it is. I don't know. I'm not. This road trip is going to be very, all right. So the Mavericks come out from All-Star break. This is, bigger picture talk, and then we'll go for the night. The Mavericks come out from All-Star break, and they beat the Suns in a game where there were just enough pivot points that the Mavericks crushed the Suns. It really felt like in hindsight, the Mavericks beat the crap out of Phoenix, but there were points in that game where the Suns rallied back only for the Mavericks to kind of step on them. And so when you have 2 more days of no Mavericks playing, there's been kind of a significant discussion about Luka Doncic and the hunt for the MVP, as well as the Mavericks making a play for 4, 5, or 6 seed out, basically higher than they are right now. Which they might have slipped back to 7th. I've not looked since they lost, but I'm pretty sure they're still ahead of Phoenix because Phoenix has played 1 more game. It's very frustrating because I just sort of want to take this season as it is, and my goals for the season, my goals as a fan, were always, I hope the Mavericks make the playoffs, and I hope they can maybe make it to the second round. But when Luka scores 35 points, grabs like 9 rebounds and 9 assists, it starts to change the math. And a lot of, Tim Legler has become like the biggest Luka Doncic fan. And as a result of that, I think our fan base has really jumped onto the notion that Luka needs to be in the top 3 of the MVP discussion just because of, if you look at, past MVPs, notably Jokic in 2021 or 2020, 2021, and then Russell Westbrook, and I think it was 2016. There's an interesting, strong case for it, despite the fact that the Mavericks are lower in seeding. And then you add in the fact that the Mavericks have had so many starters miss games that a lot of Dallas fans don't think Luka's getting a fair shake in this discussion. I sort of waffle on it, not because I don't care. Like, I would love it if Luka would win MVP. Like, that would frankly just be great for us. Because
it would be really good for us.
Really good for us. Like you get all.
That's why it's always funny when people get mad at us if we talk bad about the team.
Right, like when the Mavericks win, it's good for us.
Yes, they need to win. We want to stick around. They need to win.
Yeah, and I sort of settled, and I wanted to get your take on this before we go. I've sort of settled on the fact that, one, I want everybody that's having these conversations to really understand that our conversations as fans and to a certain extent media simply do not influence the vote whatsoever. It is Luka's play, and it is wins and losses. I want to know your sort of thoughts on him in the MVP race, as well as what do you think is a realistic outcome with these 25 games to go?
Yeah. So I thought before the 7-game win streak, I thought he was pretty much on the outside looking in terms of even being maybe being like 5th. I thought his individual production, frankly, since his 2nd season has been good enough to be MVP. It's just historically, and this is kind of unique to the NBA in a way. I think NFL maybe is a little bit like this too, but in baseball, MLB, like MVP almost always just goes to like the best player.
Yes.
Even if it's on a team that misses the playoffs. But
Yep.
NBA MVP has historically always gone to a guy that's on a top 4 team in either conference, usually top 3 team in either conference. It's like best player on best team or one of the 5 best teams. Usually, that's usually how it goes. And of course, there's Westbrook's triple double season, which was big because he was the first player to average a triple double since Oscar Robinson, like for a very long time. So that was a very historic season. And then Jokic on the 6th seeded Nuggets because his whole team died and he had a really, really, really good season. Obviously, Luka's had a really good season as well. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander's been really good. Jokic is still really good too. Like he's still playing like the best basketball player on the planet. Like Giannis has been quietly like averaging 30 plus on 60% shooting. Like he's basically like new age Shaq. So there's a lot of good players now. So it's tough. But with Luka, I think the 7-game win streak got him back into that maybe top 3. But again, all this is like, does it matter if he's like, only one person wins. Like, how much do you care if he's 3rd versus 4th or 2nd versus 5th? Like, that part always seems a little silly to me. Like, it should be about who wins. That's the part you should care about. And I know now people think that he should just win outright. And I don't really blame people for thinking that because he's having a ridiculous season. He's probably going to finish as the leading scorer in the NBA. And he's doing it on really good efficiency. And he's doing it as almost averaging a triple-double. Like, He's awesome. They need to get into that 4 or 5 range, I think, for him to legitimately have a case and kind of stem the tide. And when you consider how good all the other players are, like if this was just a weaker season, he would probably be running away with it. But there's just a lot of good teams and there's a lot of good players. Like it's just really tough.
Like Shai Gilgeous-Alexander has been amazing, and Mavs fans don't want to hear that. He has been. Sorry.
Yeah, like I think if you had put a gun to my head and was like, who would you rather have on your basketball team right now, Luka or Shai? I would say Luka, but Shai has been a 2-way force on a team that's might win the Western Conference. Like that's kind of the profile for MVP. Like I'm sorry. The big thing with Luka though, and I think this is what's causing people because it feels like it's getting a little nuttier about this, and people are really emotional about it.
Yeah.
And I think the thing that's driving everyone a little batty is that Luka, if you look historically, most of the greatest players of all time, when they won MVP, they did it when they were either 24 or 25. I think LeBron, MJ won it when they were 24. Steph won it when he was
older. Steph didn't come in the league when he was older.
Yeah, Giannis won it when he was 24, but no one wins it before that usually. And I think what's crazy, and Luka is 24. He turns 25 in about 3 days. So historically, timeline-wise, like he has not been shafted for the award if you're just looking at great players at his age. What gets really fuzzy about all this is also just at age 20, no one was as good as Luka Doncic. But 21-year-olds don't win MVP. But also 21-year-olds don't play as good as Luka has. And
they don't sit at the top of the fan. Like, odds are determined basically on the money that's coming in.
Yeah.
And he's been at the top of the MVP voting since to start the season, not voting, odds, because people want him to win it.
Yeah. He's been all NBA first team 4 out of his first 5 seasons. And like only 2 or 3 other players have done that ever. Like Luka is just an extraordinary outlier in terms of his production, how quickly he's been producing and putting up these crazy numbers. So in one way, it kind of feels like because Luka has been doing this now for 5 seasons, he almost feels like a 10-year, like it feels like he's been in the league forever because guys that usually produce at this level don't start doing this until they're 26, 27, 28.
No, I saw like one of those weird Facebook. I get all sorts of like fan posts suggested to me in my Facebook algorithm just because of what I look up on the internet. And Luka's, some of the milestones he's crossed, like he crossed one that at the current point in the career, the only 2 other players had similar stats as like Oscar Robertson and LeBron James. Like there's just no other like Luka is sitting here doing stuff that hasn't been done before. Jokic came on a little bit later, but Jokic will also probably have a shorter career because Lord knows the man might not want to play basketball. Like Luka's going to be, if Luka decides to play long enough, which I don't think he will, he has the opportunity to really challenge some of the record book stuff that I didn't think anybody would come close to just because of player longevity. It's not what it
Yeah.
Guys might play for 18 years now, but if you only play 55 games a year, you're not going to do the shit that Dirk Nowitzki and LeBron James did.
Yeah, for sure. But Lucas, as a 20-year-old, his second season, he averaged 28.8 points, 9.4 rebounds, 8.8 assists. And he's
That's not a thing.
Yeah, like LeBron didn't do that. Like Michael Jordan didn't do that. Like and I think people are like looking at the stretch basically since his second season to now, and they're like, this is not only amazing stretch of like 5 seasons. This is like maybe like the 5 bet, like no one's had a 5-season stretch almost like this, like in the history of the NBA. And he's doing it from age 20 to 25. And you're like, how has he not won MVP yet? And then again, 24, about to turn 25. Right. So it becomes this tug of war where it's like, objectively, he has so much more time. He's got at least 5-6 years that you can consider like elite all NBA prime minimum. Like he could have it longer depending on how his game ages and his body ages. And so it's like, I just don't feel like it's unfair that he hasn't won MVP yet.
No.
On the other hand, I don't blame Mavs fans or Luka fans for going nuts for looking at what he does year after year after year and be like, well, what's it going to take?
Right. This will be his 5th straight year making first team all NBA.
and it being pretty conclusive too. Like not
a question.
Not a lot of question. Yeah. So like, I get it. Like I get both sides of it, not to try to take the middle end of it, but the answer is what's it going to take is the Mavericks. They have to finish top 3 or top 4 on the list. If this team can somehow get into the top 4, he will win MVP. I will stake everything I own in my life that if this team is top 4 in the West, that he will win MVP this season. And if it doesn't happen, maybe it happens next season because maybe they can finally get off to a good start with a roster that seems to kind of fit and do some things. Despite the fact that they lost this game, they still look like a better team over the last month. So, so we'll see. Like it's just weird. We've never seen a player like Luka, really.
Then you run into like comments like this. Dallas is doing a serious job to destroy Luka's career if they don't start winning. I'm like, my brother in Christ, they are above 500 and in the playoff race. They have made the playoffs every year, but Luka's first year and then last year where everybody and their uncle was hurt. They thought JaVale McGee was a solution. Like this is the sort of stuff that I see everywhere. And I see it everywhere because frankly, most NBA fans don't watch the games. They don't do what we do night in and night out. They watch highlights. They watch little bits of stuff, and then they can't figure out how to, and they listen to stuff. And the discussion kind of gets perpetually more insane. Like, I always say this, and I will continue to say it. Luka is a first ballot basketball Hall of Famer if he gets Thanos snapped right now.
He was if he got Thanos snapped before he even entered the NBA.
He might have been.
It's a basketball Hall of Fame. Not
basketball Hall of Fame. And you go it's like this is a side discussion, but I was having a discussion with people. It's like, well, Wemby's a winner. He's a winner. And it's like,
the Spurs stink.
Like the Spurs stink, and go to Wemby's Wikipedia page. What the hell has that man won? He jumps from team to team to help his own development. He doesn't win shit. Doesn't mean he won't, but
that's
like
okay,
Luka,
because like that's Luka, the whole point. It's okay.
Luka's such a it's like disturbing how decorated he is as a player. And a lot of NBA and American fans don't particularly care about those sorts of like overseas things, but I'm sorry. But the Dallas-Fort Worth area has a bigger population than Slovenia, and he took them to the Olympic the game before the finals. They won the 2015, 2017 was it Euro Cup?
Eurobasket or whatever.
Eurobasket.
Yeah.
Like these things are monumental achievements at a basketball level. Like it's so when part of why I get sort of like I don't really care whether Luka wins MVP is because number one, I think he'll win it one day anyways, because it's like, if we're candid, the 2007 MVP that Dirk won, he had the exact same numbers as the year before. He had the exact same number the years after.
His team won 67 games.
They won 67 games. And like that was the year Kobe Bryant was going scorched earth. Like in a slower paced era was scoring a bajillion points. And it's like, it's not that I don't want to take away Dirk's MVP. I'm just saying sometimes compared to football, like in the NFL, they would have to rename the MVP the Patrick Mahomes trophy. Only they can't give it to Patrick Mahomes every year, so they're going to give it to somebody else. That's just the way these things go sometimes. At least this year, the MVP race is genuinely fascinating because with 25 games to go and Embiid getting knocked out, I think you could make a convincing case for 4 different guys. I really do. I mean, a lot of Mavs fans are like poo-pooing Kawhi Leonard's numbers. That man is a death machine.
If you're poo-pooing Kawhi's numbers, I hope the Mavericks do not face the Clippers again in the first round.
No, I don't want. Though it would be very like hero's journey stuff. It would be kind of amazing.
Yeah, they can vanquish the Clippers, but yeah.
So I think what we're gonna do over the next 25 games is I do want to talk about Luka and Kyrie more. I do want to continue to talk about them more. Some interesting feedback I got where it's like, you guys really talk about some of the other players more than them. Problem with Luka and Kyrie talking about them too much is I like at a certain point, it's like, what else is there to say? Like Luka and Kyrie are freaking awesome. So It's like, you just want to lead. Like, do I want to lead every show with, man, look how amazing Luka and Kyrie was? We probably should. It would probably be better for us. It's not really what we do though. So we'll try though. Cause I really do. I want to put more emphasis on some of the things that because like Kyrie's first quarter tonight just couldn't find the bottom of the net. Still got to the line, I think, for 8 free throws. Luka Doncic was the only other player. I mean, I would put him as even more awake than Kyrie because Kyrie's shot was just weird in that first quarter. I think he was like 2 for 7 from the floor. Just like a lot of like weird, like shots just wouldn't fall. That happens sometimes. Luka played a great game, more or less. Kid left him in the game to play through a defensive slog where he turned into mush.
That was not good.
That was not good. Like whenever there's just elements of this where I'm like, I don't, we'll talk. I'm sure in the second post game show, we'll talk about Kid. But there's a lot to where I'm just like, man, I don't know how these dudes deal with him in game because it just doesn't look like he does much some games. Though he did in the Phoenix game, and I was wrong about that. So, anyways, we've been talking for almost 50 minutes. You got anything else you want to get out?
No, not really. I just be nice to each other on the internet if you can.
Yeah.
There's these 2 days off, man. It's too much time.
Well, the MVP stuff makes people toxic. It's just it makes them insane because it's like they don't
everyone
understand
insane.
Each race is an individual race, and when you call back to previous year stuff, I just sort of want to note to everybody that that doesn't matter. Like I wish it did for context, but it doesn't. And so as a result, I just like want to choose to walk away from some of this stuff. It's not fun. I want to enjoy watching Luka scoring 35 points a game. I want to enjoy watching Irving shoot 17-foot bank shots when he pulls up off a dime. Like that's just so much more fun than arguing, the ridiculous numbers that are out there, the stuff that I don't understand at a high level. I just basketball's supposed to be fun, and if it's not having fun when you're talking about it, you shouldn't do it.
Yeah, I'm with you.
All right, so I'll be right back with the second show. You guys should hang out if you got thoughts, and we'll talk for a little bit of time, and then we can go enjoy the rest of our Sunday night. Are you going to do anything interesting with your free time?
I don't know, because we got the recap is already on the site. I've already edited and scheduled our stats post. I don't know, man. I might eat a slice of old birthday cake and call it a night.
That's right. That's good stuff, man. All right. Well, thank you so much for talking this much to me. You guys are the best. Everybody hanging out in the show, hang out for a few more minutes. We'll come back and talk. Those of you listening on the audio stream, we'll be back with a group therapy at some point on Monday afternoon for your stream. Thanks so much. And Josh will be gone, and then I'll be back in less than a minute. Bye, guys. Hello, friends, and welcome back to a episode of a show that we haven't had in quite some time. This is Pod Mavericks presents Group Therapy. As those of you who are here in the stream should know, there's a pinned comment in the YouTube Slack to which I want you to click on that link and come join me and get your particular takes off. If you have thoughts about this game, if you have thoughts about the season as a whole, if you have thoughts about the season yet to come, I would like you to join and talk a little ball with me. If there's not much to be said tonight, as can happen during losses, then we won't have this show for very long. But I wanted to, give folks the opportunity to come talk a little basketball, though it is, oddly early. It's about 7:45 here on March 25th. For those listening on the audio stream a little bit later, possibly on Monday, Josh Bowe and I just finished our first show. This is our second show in which we do get folks that want to talk a little hoop. Coming up first, we have Sam. Everybody else that is interested in talking, go ahead and click on that link again. If you don't know what I'm talking about, I will share it again. Just let me know. All right, Sam, what are you thinking tonight, man?
Oh, they weren't going to go undefeated the rest of the season. So,
as a pity. Would have been nice, though.
Would have been cool, but, it was going to happen sooner or later. I just think, obviously, I think y'all were talking about it. Just the disappointing part was you get it down to 4 in the fourth quarter, and then you have a THJ disaster class. You have a kid disaster class. And then it just kind of goes to shit. And then before you know it, it's like you're down by 12 again, and then it's pretty much over after that.
So let me ask you something. There were a lot of comments in the channel that were like, you need to talk about Kid. I didn't know what to say about Kid other than I'm like, all right, can we play Jaden Hardy a little bit more and Tim Hardaway a little bit less? Was there anything else that you were like, this is just disastrous?
Besides that, not necessarily. It's just, I think it's the fact that this was my opinion ever since the trade. I think everybody was like, okay, you got Luka, you got Kyrie. This is great. You actually got some big wings. You got another backup center, but it's going to come down at the end to Kid. And like you said, the Phoenix game, I thought he was pretty good for the most part. He made adjustments. He actually took guys out when you needed to take them out. But he has those stretches to where, like THJ, man, if he's not hitting, take him out.
It's the Bertans rule. Like he hit his first shot and then he just missed his next 5. I don't know. Tim is somebody I can't talk about reasonably because I like Tim, despite how much he frustrates me.
It's one of those things to where in a way you need him because he'll take shots that a lot of other guys on the team won't take. So I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing.
It's both.
So it's kind of like, okay, well, you need him, but at the same token, he can shoot you into games. Well, he had that 40-point game against New Orleans a couple games back, but then he'll have games like tonight where he's just not hitting nothing and he's turning the ball over it's crazy turnover. It's not even like, oh, he's, Kyrie handling the ball and he just loses it. He's just throwing the ball away.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. The one that really chapped my ass, there are 2. The first that led to the backcourt turnover where it's like he just missed Luka on a pass. But then the pass that was like a solid 4 feet behind Daniel Gafford, it's just like, what is happening?
Yeah, that wasn't great.
Guys, nobody else on the team gets that kind of rope. Like Josh Green makes a mistake like that, and Kid will hang him by his toes somewhere. It's like, what's going on? I don't know.
Thing as well, I don't know what it is about Kid that it's like, okay, you got Luka on the team, you got Kyrie, let him bring the ball up. Why is Derrick Jones Jr. bringing the ball up some possessions?
So there are reasons. I think that's honestly somebody in the chat pointed out earlier, the fact that Luka has the ball the most per possession per game. It's an effort to get the ball out of his hands to reduce the wear and tear on him. But it also sometimes there's just like, what is this guy can't dribble? Why? Why is that happening?
Right. If it's Josh Green, I could trust Josh Green with the ball. I could, for the most part. Even Jaden Hardy, I won't say he's the best. He's not a point guard.
He could dribble. He could dribble from the backcourt to the front court.
Exactly. So I could trust him with the ball. Yeah. But THJ, bro, your job is to shoot the ball, get open, shoot the ball. I saw somebody say like he thinks he's Jason Terry, and it's really like he's not. Because at least Jason Terry, for the most part, could handle the ball. He had his turnovers too, but he was a point guard pretty much.
Jason Terry was a point guard in Atlanta for several years until the Mavericks made him like a perma 6-man.
Yeah, so like at least he could do it. Tim, and like I said, Tim has his moments, but for the most part, he's a shooter. So you let him shoot. So like, I don't want to get too mad because it's not like Indiana's a bad team. They're obviously a great team.
No, they're so fast, and they strain your defense in a way that. And there's a good question from Eric in the chat, which I think I'll address later about Boston. Like, there's very few teams that strain your defense the way Indiana does.
Yeah, and I'll say one more thing before I get off. Like PJ Washington, for as bad as he's been offensively, I still can't knock the man for his defense. I mean, he held Siakam to like 12, 13 points. So
yeah, I guess that's true.
It wasn't like his offense, he has to pick it up at some point though. He can't like, I'm not saying just don't be ass, but like at least be like semi-ass, like just make some shots, because right now it's not looking great, and it's just we're gonna need him obviously in the playoffs, because I still think we'll get a 6. We'll be the 6th seed at some point, just with the way Sacramento's playing. I mean, even though Phoenix won today, they could have easily lost that game against the Lakers. And I just think with Luka and Kyrie, if they can keep playing the way they're playing, I mean,
can you see the stream right now?
I can see it. Yeah.
All right, so I'm gonna share something. We're gonna watch this. We're gonna watch this clip together. It's from a man on Twitter, Glenn, who you may follow. Very funny, and this is just an excellent way to. I'll describe the clip after I show, but it's a classic 6-second Vine. We're gonna watch this thing together. He says, "This is Tim. Mavericks go on a run. Tim Hardaway comes in and boom."
Oh gosh.
It's a guy doing the box. What was it? The milk crate challenge, where it's like you stand on top of the box. I watched this like 7 times in a row, and then I'm like, you know what? I'm going to share this with the stream. It's a guy getting to the very top, and then somebody coming in and doing like a Ryu kick from out of Street Fighter, and the guy just goes crashing to the ground. Yeah. Anyway, that's great podcasting. All right. All right. So first, I'm gonna punch you, but thank you so much for hanging out tonight, man.
Hey, you have a good night, Kurt.
All right. So my man Logan, who used to be a Mavs Moneyball contributor before he fell off the face of the fucking planet, is in the comments, and he wants to know, how does he come on this? Logan, that's a great question. In the YouTube, there is a pinned comment with a link, and it's a link to StreamYard. Click on that link. That's how you get in on this. All right, we got 4 people in waiting. Well, Logan's one of the people in waiting now. That's amazing. We got my man Simon, my man Henry, Brandon, and then Logan. Everybody's really this is why I love these. We get much fewer viewers, but like much more spicier takes. So Simon, my East Coast friend, what's going on?
Oh, there we go. Hey, can you hear me, Kirk?
I can. What's going on?
Hold on. I'm having some problems with my fucking headphones. I'm sorry. Hold on.
That's okay. This is the way technology is. I mean, you can talk to me over the internet, but you might not be able to hear me. That's just perfect. All right, here's what I'm going to do, man. I'm going to remove you for now, and I'm going to go to my friend Henry, and we'll figure this out here in a little bit. But you can stay up here, and I'll call you again in a minute. Henry!
Oh, my God. This game gave me I have an ibuprofen addiction after this game, my guy. I might have to go get, like, a liver transplant or some shit. This game was absolutely frustrating.
They just couldn't get it back. And I expected them to at some point, because, like, when you go – I made a sassy-ass comment where I was like, it'd be nice if Kyrie could hit a shot, and then he just boom, 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 and then they're in it, and then they died. And it was that quick. And I normally are really fired up over losses, but this just felt like a Rick Carlisle special where he put the Mavericks, not Jason Kidd, like the Mavericks in a blender and was like, fuck you guys.
I instantly knew. I think there's an ongoing conspiracy where Rick Carlisle knew Jamal Mosley should have been the coach, so he recommended Kidd because he knew Kidd was ass, and then that would be one more just fuck you to the organization right before he left.
It's like it's like, do you ever like? Did you ever like make a recommendation to your friend where it's like, you know what, you should go out with that chick, but you're fucking around and they take you seriously? And that's what this feels like with
you're
kids.
moving to Dallas, an amazing area with great school districts. Oak Cliff. You'll love Oak Cliff. It's perfect.
I do love Oak Cliff. Best food in the city.
You know what I mean? Like it's just another one. And again, I just hopped on because I just got off work not too long ago. But why, in what world can please someone tell me why THG's lease is this long? Like Hardy gets this much, and he's better in every aspect, and he doesn't turn the ball over. Like, I was obviously upset that PJ and Tim Hardaway were bringing the ball up the court, but I get it. Luka and Kyrie getting blitzed. Like, two people had their backs to them out of bounds, just making sure that they could not get the ball. Rick Carlisle special. I totally understand it. But there was no reason to why Hardy shouldn't be getting Tim Hardaway Jr.'s minutes. I don't get it. I don't understand. Every single time we got close, Kyrie rattles off 9 straight, 10 straight in the fourth quarter. We're within the 4. Tim Hardaway, I know you.
I mean, at least like the fourth was less frustrating for me because all of a sudden the Pacers started like bombarding from beyond the arc. But what it did is it made all those prior mistakes really painful. Mm-hmm. That's what I hated about that, because there's so many live ball turnovers, so many missed. Like there were missed, like when Luka missed all the free throws that he hit that he had earlier. I'm just sitting there going, man, these guys are going to regret this. Now, I don't want to say at least they got blown out by 20, because that always sucks. But on the flip side is like that game felt over with like 7 minutes to go, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna.
I know when the Mavericks are going to lose, because anytime there's a pivotal point, we do something stupid, and it happened repeatedly throughout the game. Okay, here's some momentum. Nah, fuck it up. Here's some momentum. Nah, fuck it up. Like Tim Hardaway, 4 turnovers, 3 of 6, 4 of 12. Who else? PJ.
The PJ turnovers might have been worse, if only because I sort of expect Tim disasters. Like it's like, but the Tim giveth and Tim taketh away. But the PJ ones were, do you remember the one where he dribbled off his back of his foot? Yeah. I'm like you can't do that, dude. And then
that's Jaylen Brown levels of dribbling. And I don't think I've seen someone dribble as horrible as Jaylen Brown. Like, he literally dribbles like a 12-year-old in AAU practice. Like, I have no idea what was going on with that. Still love PJ. You haven't even been here 2-3 weeks, so I'm not going to hold this one against you.
No, he's allowed.
He's been here for 5 years. I still don't understand what he does. Doesn't play defense. When his shot's not falling, he can't pass, he can't rebound. He's worse than Ben Simmons at this point. He's a literal traffic cone. And Kid just has this undying faith in him that for someone – you went to the Western Conference Finals when THG was in street clothes. When he's off the court, not taking shots away from there's a direct correlation. THG off the court, winning basketball. And I feel like this is, again, I think you mentioned this earlier. It's been masked by the 6-7 game winning streak. How horrible Tim Hardaway has been. When you're winning, everything is okay. But he's just, I don't know. I wanted to include Tim Hardaway at the trade deadline to see if we can somehow bring Dodo back. Hopefully we can bring Dodo back during the summertime, but he needs to be buried behind Dwight Powell. Like, I really just don't get it. Garbage minutes. Like what is the one reasonable argument to continue to play Tim Hardaway right now? This is obviously, I'm gonna pick Hardy for right now, but what is the one reasonably good thing that he does that you can still point to a positive?
To get this many minutes, I don't know. I mean, I've espoused the theory and will continue to do so, to where I think you put him on like a 3 to 4 shot diet, where if he connects in a reasonable way, particularly on the threes, the 2-pointers, he's been like, you go check out his Basketball Reference. His 2-point shot percentage is remarkably garbo. And
they're all step backs. They're all hard twos. Like, why?
Right in front of the 3-point line, where he looks like Kyrie ran through a fax machine, because he tries to do the same shit, and it's just it doesn't work because he doesn't have the same kind of balance.
On a positive note, though, the Pelicans are down 5 with 4 minutes left to the Bulls. So hopefully they lose. We jump back up to the 6th seed versus the 8th seed.
That's what I'm talking. Is that where we are right now? 8th seed?
We dropped down from the 6th to the 8th seed in one night.
Oh God, it's like that sometimes out west. My goodness,
he got out coached. Like, I said that during the comment when I donated. How much can we improve the roster? No, you're more than welcome. I'm gonna do it as much as I can. And hopefully in the upcoming business venture, I can do it a hell of a lot more. But I don't understand how much more we can improve the roster if we continue to get out coached. Obviously, I've been one of the main people saying fire Kidd. I wanted him a restraining order from the DFW area months ago. And again, Luka loves him, Kyrie loves him, so he's not going anywhere. I totally get it. But I am going to continue pushing that agenda as long as I got breath in my lungs. So like I don't get it. You got thoroughly out coached. D-Lob, I didn't expect you to guard Miles Turner at that point. I think we probably should have ran Maxey at the 5. That way we can switch and he would have probably played Miles Turner just a little bit better. But
Maxey was getting baked though. Did you he has good defensive games tonight. Like he just had guys making tough shots over him. It was really tough. This felt like a game that had been kind of coming to a degree to where I think like the Suns game was obviously a great win, but I really think the Mavericks could have lost that game too, just as easily as they won it with some kind of just the ball bouncing a different way a few times. And this was one that felt like the Mavs have been putting off because again, Tim's been bad. Luka and Kyrie were the only good offensive players for 2 straight games. That's hard to win games in a row when that's the only good offensive players you're getting, only offense you're getting out of guys.
But we still have to find a way to. I don't know why Kidd didn't take the exact formula that he used versus the Thunder when we blew the doors off of them with the multiple backdoor cuts when we go in. PJ set the screen, then Tim set the screen that then led to his alley-oop. Like, I don't understand why we don't get PJ rolling towards the rim more. He's clearly more comfortable there until his shot starts falling.
He did. He had a real nice floater to start the game, and they just never did it again.
That's what I'm saying. Like, until his 3.5 shot starts falling, we can't have him sitting in the corner and being a bigger Grant Williams. Like, I don't understand. Like, we can't be watching the same game. We can't be watching the same
PJ going downhill. The corners, even when he's attacking from the corners, it feels a little bit more trepidatious. But the downhill attack, we had a comment in the first show where someone's like, I don't really like PJ's ball handling. And I like PJ's ball handling, but I think there's something about the angle from the corner versus, the optionality because he had a real nice pass to Lively for a layup when he was attacking. I just want to give the guy some short roll situations where he's doing stuff because, and again, guys, like that baseline is an additional defender. When you're in the middle of the floor, you can do a lot more damage if you have the vision, the length, and the skills. And that kind of is what I think of PJ.
He definitely can. Rick Carlisle's a masterclass. They have to in almost every offensive category: field goal percentage, 3-point percentage, transition bucket. It doesn't matter. The Pacers are leading in it. Can you imagine Rick Carlisle with Luka and Kyrie? Like that would be absolutely absurd. But we're going to continue to get our coach. Will Hardy in Utah, amazing coach. Rick Carlisle, amazing coach. Eric Spoelstra, amazing coach. Coach Bud, thank you. Is what I've been saying. Like, I know it's not going to happen. Coach Bud is the head coach. D'Antoni is your offensive coordinator. I don't know who you put for the defensive coordinator, but that's kind of like where I would start, and you would see a total team. I don't know how high the ceiling is with this current roster. I was personally thinking Western Conference Finals.
It was very matchup based, though.
I really feel like there's a ceiling on this team until Kidd either changes his philosophy or we have a new coach. Like, I really think it's, again, you've been in organizations, you've played sports before. Leadership starts at the top and trickles down. If the top brass up here is ass, everything else is going to be hot dog water. Like, it's going to be dumpster juice. Like, you just can't do anything with it. So I just really don't know how far we go to until we get better leadership.
Oh, I love it. Well, thanks so much for joining once again, my man.
See you, man.
All right. We're going to bring Simon back on up. Simon, welcome back to the show. Hopefully now the Wi-Fi is going to work for you. What's up?
I think it wasn't the Wi-Fi. It was my damn headphones. I don't know what was going on.
That happens.
Yeah. Anyway, so I watched the game. I was on delay, so I was like kind of fast forwarding through a lot of it. I'm trying to think what my main takeaways were. I guess we can start with Tim Hardaway. I've been on here, and I'm not a big fan of the guy. I do kind of recognize that he's an important part of the team, as you've said many times, because he takes a lot of shots that most other players aren't willing to take, and he also
the grenades because they don't want to hurt
grenades. That's exactly what I was leading into. When I watch him, it seems like every time the ball touches his hands in the front court, he just seems like he's in such a hurry to shoot, as if it's like he's never going to get the ball back if he passes it.
That drives me crazy because you're right. It looks like he makes the decision to shoot, well before he shoots it. Like there's a stat, and I need to go look at it, but there's a stat somewhere where it's like guys shooting percentage based on number of dribbles. I bet Tim's shooting percentage after he dribbles more than twice is terrible.
Yeah. It's terrible, but like he doesn't even, even if like you make the decision to shoot, it's like what a high IQ player will do is like, okay, I'll throw it to the high post guy and cut off of him to maybe give myself a little separation. He doesn't even do things like that. But then on the flip side, it's like, okay, well, we want Tim to pass the ball more. But but when he like there was the one play he tried to make like a left-handed bounce pass off the dribble. Just like the ball just like trickled across the lane, and then the Pacers.
That was the one. It was so far behind. It looked like a glitch in the Matrix, because it's like the guy had been there. That sort of stuff happens in youth basketball that I coach, where it's like, well, I passed him the ball. It's like, he's not there anymore. What are you doing?
Yeah.
And that's what Tim did.
Yeah. What happened to Did Lively play in the second half? Did he get injured?
This is a fun question. I think Lively is getting a little bit of, I don't want to say rookie wall, but I think that he's getting put in positions where he's getting shown that, like, just sort of the rawness of him. Like, he gave up some rough open looks to
Turner.
Yes, and that sort of hurt him. I think he's good. I think he's capable of defending in space. I asked this after the Suns game, like, why isn't he out there? He's athletic, he can move. He's not comfortable defending in space.
Did he play in the second half though?
He did, but not to start the second half. He didn't play much down the stretch.
Score, and it said he played 14 minutes.
Yep, pretty rough.
I mean, that seems a little low, because it's not like Gafford put up much. He didn't really put up much resistance to Turner either.
Yep.
So I don't know what the deal was there. I tend to agree with you on Jason Kidd. I as a coach, he just doesn't impress me. I don't think the game today in particular is on him. I mean, Luka had it going in the first half. That kept him in it. Kyrie got it going in the fourth quarter to bring him close. But like you alluded
somebody
to
else
earlier,
has got to make a shot more than this is Kidd.
Offensively, like other than that, like what did they really have going? And then the PJ part of it is like, it seems like he's picked up Josh Green's habit of where he, like what Josh Green does. And Josh Green had an okay game. He was 6 for 8 or something like that.
Yeah, he had a good game.
But Josh, a lot of times when he drives, he just doesn't have a plan. He doesn't, he's not like, okay, I'm going to drive. I'm driving to score, and then if they cut me off, then I have this outlet or whatever. He just goes and doesn't really know what he's doing. And I saw a little bit of that from PJ today, where he drives, doesn't have a plan, doesn't know what he's going to do. I thought it was a winnable game. I don't know if that what they didn't have, or they were within 4 in the fourth quarter. But the kid, who's the kid? The kid, I don't know his name. Ended up going 5 of 5 from 3.
That's an NBA creative player. I watch a lot of basketball. That was not a real person before tonight. You cannot convince me otherwise. And I had this kind of ridiculous service that I had access to the in-game feeds, so like the stuff that would go on during commercials.
Yeah. Oh my God.
There were Pacers fans who didn't know who that guy was, because they had a couple of contests. It was
Shepard.
Mm-hmm.
Shepard, I think was his name. Turner, I mean
Ben Shepard, something like that, right?
Isn't Turner? Yeah, isn't Turner from? Isn't he from?
He is. He went to Josh Bose High School. He went to.
No shit.
Yeah. He's he went to University of Texas too. So
and I know he's been in. I mean, he's
Mavericks fans have coveted him for quite some.
He's
time.
been in trade rumors forever.
Yeah, and his knees are made out of paper mache at this point. So didn't he have an injury or something like before his draft that he's one of these guys. I think he's one of the many players who I think who suffers from injuries that are not a result of like an actual injury, but just like over basketballing. I think would be the only way I could think to describe it.
It's becoming increasingly common with how much these guys play at the youth level and all that. All right, what else? Thinking. I mean, Kyrie, I think before his fourth quarter, he just missed a bunch of shots that he usually makes. I mean,
Right.
that happens.
TJ McConnell kind of got in his business a little bit, and I don't, over like a 7-game series.
He did, but I don't think he really bothered him.
Nah, shots just didn't go.
I think,
Because you got to the line. That was pretty neat. He never gets the free throw line.
He did get to the line. A lot of that was that, I think in the second quarter in particular, the Pacers were in the bonus pretty early, or like Dallas was. I mean, the Pacers fouled them to put them in the bonus is what I was trying to say. And that got him to the line. I think what a game like today really represents is how much of a key piece Dante Exum is to this team, right? Because I think a previous guy who was on alluded to the fact that, Kid is trying to have somebody else other than Luka and Kyrie bring the ball up.
Mm-hmm.
And Exum he is that guy. He is the guy that can transport the ball from point A to point B and organize an offense and get Luka and Kyrie in positions where, they're catching it with a live dribble versus having to bring the ball up. And then that makes it a lot easier. When they are dribbling, it makes it a lot easier for other teams to blitz them versus when they catch it with a live dribble.
Yeah.
So I think Exum is the connector of this team. And when he gets back, he's going to make things easier on Luka and Kyrie, and he's going to kind of shoehorn Tim and Jaden, into roles which are more appropriate.
I think that's true. I mean, everybody's kind of wigging out about him because he has knee bursitis, which if you look up what that is, the range of outcomes are like 3 days to like 6 weeks.
Bursitis. So what is he? Does he just have like an excess of fluid buildup in his knee or something?
They're not getting specific enough about it, but like that's why I say like when it's all over the map as I understand it, to where it's not particularly painful, but it is uncomfortable
because he did come back for like a
that's
couple.
Right.
He was out for a while. He came back and then then he's out again.
All right. Okay. So we got to shout out are the Chicago Bulls going to win this game? Yes. They're up by 8 points with 11 seconds. They're going to knock down the New Orleans Pelicans.
So that means they move back up to 7.
We're not going to finish tonight in 8th. So we're in a good spot.
Okay.
Simon, I got a bunch of people waiting, and I heard my wife.
No, that's fine. That's cool, man.
Appreciate
you having me always.
Oh, of course. Thanks for coming. Talk soon, all right?
Yep. See you.
Okay. Before I bring on my next guest in Brandon, we're going to fly through some people. We got 4 people waiting. I just wanted to show you guys my absolutely preposterous shirt that I never wear. Everybody recognizes our Lord and Savior, Deshaun Stevenson, the man whose true shooting percentage during the 2011 NBA Finals. I'm pretty convinced he's why they won that series, because he shot such an absurd distance from 3. And if anybody's interested in where I purchased this shirt, I will send you out a link a little bit later. All right, coming up next is Brandon. How you doing, Brandon?
Doing well, Kirk. Nice shirt.
Thank you. That's just I was wearing this shirt in Summer League when I ran into the entire Miami Heat coaching staff at a restaurant.
Oh man.
And I sort of shat myself. I was like, fuck. I'm wearing a really, really disrespectful shirt. Anyway, what's going on tonight? What'd you think of this game?
I don't know, man. I think a lot of that falls back on the players. Kitty definitely got out coached, but I mean, they were making some terrible passes, and Indiana, they did a good job. And I think a lot of it goes back on the players not really adjusting. There was a couple of times when the guys, they just couldn't do anything in the paint, and they just sat there and either turned the ball over or missed. So Indiana kind of like trapped them, forced them, to play kind of sloppy, and definitely forced the Mavs to make bad passes. So, that was kind of more of an on-court, battle more than a coaching battle. Kitty definitely got out coached. Carlisle, he like he always does, he uses his timeouts well. When the Mavs went up, I believe in the second quarter, he called a timeout.
Mm-hmm.
And, he never let the game get out of control. Kid, he let it get up. It was 102 to 120.
Mhm.
Or they-
I mean, the game was over though. Like when they started hitting threes, I think part of him knew because you look at the minutes totals for tonight, and Kyrie and Luka basically came out of the game. Now, in games past, he would sort of just keep playing them, but they got a back to back on I want to say Tuesday, Wednesday, so it's probably wise to get them on out of the game.
Jeez, but I was looking at the stats in Indiana. They, outside of 3 points and blocks, they got everything. Second chance points. They they didn't dominate, but they still won in every category. And when you do that, that's the implication that you're just gonna have to win the game. But you know what, Kirk, I kind of wonder with Dallas having two new bigs, Washington and Gafford. They never really ran any sets with any bigs because they never had any guys that could really just score in the paint consistently. I'm not saying that PJ and Gafford can, but I kind of wonder if it's something that's new to them that they haven't really just been, kind of exposed to, and that's something that they're going to have to work on with the short amount of time left in the regular season.
I mean, they'll try different things. I mean, this is kind of the game that I, they play. Who do they play next? They got the Celtics. I want to say the game after. There are going to be some not like frustrating losses ahead, but the Pacers were just kind of the prime team to make you go, okay.
Right.
Mavericks team has been playing well, but are they as good as we think they are?
Mm-hmm.
Somebody asked me, it's like, did the Mavericks even get a scouting report? Because they didn't seem to know that Miles Turner can score. And I mean, that's just kind of the relentlessness of the regular season at play.
It is. But, just got to stay optimistic and hopefully, stay out of that play-in.
Sure.
I definitely don't want them guys in the play-in, man.
No.
I wanted to nail it in and take off. And just one more thing, Kirk, about the Luka thing. I made a comment earlier that, Jordan, he didn't win it every year. So it's just the nature of the beast.
Yeah. I mean, the MVP discussion is a difficult one because I earnestly don't care about it unless I feel super confident about the Mavericks heading towards the playoffs.
Yeah.
And I'm just not there yet.
Mm-hmm.
So, all right, man. Well, thanks for hanging out.
Thank you, Kirk.
All right, we'll talk soon. All right, coming up next is my man, Glenn. Can't remember if I've had Glenn on before, but either way. Glenn, welcome to the show.
What's going on, Kirk? It's been a minute.
It has been a minute. Good to
It was
see
in the
you.
off-
Thank you.
It was
Thank
in
you
the
for
off
joining.
season. You're welcome.
It has been that off season. Yes, I'm sorry. When I do these every night, I'm like, I recognize names, I recognize faces, but then I'm like, when was it?
Oh, I even if I'm not on here, I'm listening the entire time, man.
Well, thank you so much. So what are you thinking tonight?
Okay, so I didn't get a chance to get on as soon as the game stopped, but
That's okay. Josh and I do a show first, and then we do this one. So you didn't miss much.
But I will say, I kind of like, if there's any silver lining in this, I kind of like the fact that, finally, if you pay attention to the national media, they just kind of accidentally stumbled upon, well, are the Mavericks good? What does this mean for the Mavericks? We should be paying more attention to the Mavericks. And I kind of got the Dallas Cowboy kind of fear in me that I don't want too many people telling this team how good they are too quickly.
This is a great take. Keep going.
So I want them to immediately get slapped in the face and get their ass handed to them, because I want them to not believe all the press clippings so quickly. Yeah, this team could be unstoppable. I think this team in a 7-game series could have beat the Pacers 7.
Sure.
We'll see in about 10 days.
Yeah, we don't need to worry about that, though, because, they're not the kind of playoff opponent the Mavericks are going to play. We're going to be playing some big old team like the Minnesota Timberwolves, the Nuggets.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like the Pacers are kind of a one-of-one anomaly. And I don't want to overthink this loss too much. I think that had Luka gotten some shots to go down a little bit differently, you obviously scored 25 in the first half. If Kyrie's able to connect on 4 shots in the first quarter instead of 2. I can't help but think this game had some pivot points that would have gone the other way. And unfortunately, nobody from the Mavericks could hit a shot. Like, that's a rarity for these guys.
Well, but I'm not going to harp on Kidd. I did it in the offseason. He's actually done I mean, the record is what it is. He had some role to play in this, obviously, but
Yeah.
there was not a lot of ball movement. There was not. I mean, there was.
That was
not
by
a lot of-
design. Carlisle was really like, we're just going to make. They didn't send doubles. They really mucked up what the Mavericks had been seeing, and you give Kyrie and Luka enough opportunities, they're going to figure out how to beat it. But I really didn't think the Mavericks had any answer offensively for what Indiana was doing defensively, and that was disappointing. That's kind of that's a kid mark, but what are you going to do?
Mark. The second kid mark is they were conceding the mid range to Miles Turner, and why was Gafford on all of these switches defending the 3-point shooter in the corner?
Mm-hmm.
That's not where we want Gafford. I saw Luka I don't know how many times I saw Luka underneath the basket trying to defend against Turner. I mean, there's several ways that you could go about trying not getting in that situation.
Sure.
I just felt I don't want to say I felt like Kidd was lazy, but I don't feel like he pulled out the game plan that he did against Oklahoma or against the Suns.
Yeah.
The last thing that I'll say is with Timmy, I really think he's in his head with his role because he's no longer needed to be the person that takes these volume shots.
That's a good take.
And I mean, everything changed for the most part when he's no longer the third or fourth best scorer or person on the team. We don't need him to be the third most important person or fourth most important person on the team. So now instead of saying, Tim, we want you to take, you can take 13 shots a game if you want to. Now that's not what we need from him. And, he's got that.
He's forcing it.
Exactly. And, we will need him at some point because someone averaging 17 points off the bench that can shoot long-range three-pointers like this is a value to have. Unfortunately, we have to carve out Timmy time. We don't have to do that with Jaden, right?
That's right.
Unless I'm not going to make this about I don't like Kidd because I think Kidd's the only one that can coach this team right now. Just because of the people that are on.
He also ain't going anywhere. It's why I don't try to go into it too much because it's like there's 20 games left. What are we gonna do? They're not firing the coach.
No, but they definitely need to tighten up some stuff, and I hope this game is the one that makes everyone realize they still have a lot of work to do.
I think that's right. Glenn, great takes. Thanks for joining us.
All right, thanks, man.
All right, coming up next is a former Mavs Moneyball contributor and maybe future Mavs Moneyball contributor if he wants to be again. Logan, what are you doing, Logan? You're out in the dark somewhere.
How's it going? I am out in the dark. I pulled over to talk to you.
Wow.
I was driving.
That's dedication. What's going
on? Nothing much. I would like to write for you guys again. I know I disappeared off the face of the earth, but I started teaching though. Teaching,
that does happen.
It kind of destroyed my life for a little bit. I did want to say, I know some people would be like, Coach Bud, what do you mean? Because he's bad in the playoffs. But if you want Luka to win an MVP, we would have 58 wins or something with Coach. I mean, that's just what he does. He's just like a regular season wizard. But I wanted to jump off talking about Exum in relation to THJ.
Sure.
Because I think it's right that he's forcing it, but I think Kidd kind of gives him the leash, and it's kind of like both of those are happening at the same time because
that's right.
They're not really running like plays just to get him shots right now. He's kind of the second side ball handler. Always.
If he gets the rebound, that man is like, I'm going to dribble up the floor. I'm going to shoot it.
Well, and that's what Exum would kind of fill. He used to let Josh do it a little bit for whatever reason. If Kyrie or Luka are off, Tim is the second side. And once the defense kind of forces Luka or Kyrie over, so it's not just that Tim is taking bad shots or that Tim is not playing defense. It's that like half of our possessions are sort of in his hands, which doesn't make any sense. Like that's more absurd than anything else about him is that you would kind of make him basically a true ball handler for 12 seconds at a time. And so Exum, pray over his knee. I think they do kind of want they did let Exum be that. You know what I mean?
Yes. No, and that's where if you think of the third ball handler roles that the Mavericks have had over the past several years, the 2021 playoffs, I know the 3-guard lineup didn't actually work as well as I like to remember it.
Right.
But it did have when 2 of those 3 were on, it gave the Mavericks a variety of different looks. And right now, the kind of looks that they're getting, when you obviously Luka, Kyrie, unbelievable looks. So we're not like criticizing the thought, but if you have a third point guard that's able to do the things that Exum's able to do, it gives you another layer, another wrinkle. At a certain point in the year, if like the Exum stats were like, man, this guy is just carving up defenses, and that was really helpful.
Well, the other thing is, I mean, we are deeper for sure. Like I would say we are a deep team, but some of the lineups that are going out there, THJ kind of has, I don't want to say this because Tim drives me crazy and I'm just as upset as everybody else. Like he's always driven me crazy. But when there's a lineup that's Luka, DJJ, Maxey and Gafford and Tim, it's Tim bombs away, or like there's no spacing. There's no, like we got a lot of good like scrappers in the front court now and stuff. But until Exum is back, like kids kind of putting Tim there because otherwise you're not really running like a valid offensive lineup.
Yep.
And I think Exum would really make all that kind of shake out. But it's just that like that lineup when I saw it, like I've seen you mention that. It's like, why is Maxey, Derek Jones, and there's just like no spacing.
Like that's a like that. Honestly, it's like a high school level coaching decision because it's like, you know what, I'm going to play my defenders to stop their offense.
Exactly. You know what he kind of reminds me of, and after this I'll get off. I don't want to take too long, but
no worries, man.
There's always NFL coaches that when Pat Mahomes scores a touchdown, even if you're only down 3 points, you just abandon the run game completely. Jason Kidd is totally. This is what Mac Brown used to do with the Longhorns.
Yeah.
He wasn't running the ball if they were down a field goal, and it makes me want to pull my hair out. I mean, that Kyle Shanahan kind of does stuff like that, and as good as a coach as he is, but Kidd kind of does that. He's like, "Oh, this is up tempo. Time to get Tim in for 35 minutes." And I don't know. It just seems like he kind of pot commits to these different things. I mean, the Miles Turner thing you could kind of say is the same thing because I was like, I guess they're going to let Miles Turner beat him, and I was like, I guess they're just going to keep letting him beat him. But
it's so bad. Getting beat by Miles Turner is so annoying. I don't know how to contextualize that.
And it's baffling because against the Suns, I was like, there's Kidd over there doing his screaming thing like he did in the playoffs and double team. It was kind of like the same way they beat the Suns the first time. And he'll randomly just kind of, he's a confusing bad coach. I don't think he's just like it's never as simple as just being like he's the worst. It's like he'll pull you in for a second and then you're like, no, this is the same.
Well, but then but this is the other problem, and this is a specific Kidd criticism that will go over a lot of people's heads. They have 35 assistant coaches, so it's like we don't know who's in charge of what and who's doing whatever, and so it's like you throw all these things together, and then when he stands there with his hands in his pockets, it presents this image of leadership that makes someone like me a crazy person. It's not real because that's not how NBA coaching works.
Yeah.
Because it's like these guys are professionals. They know what they're doing. At least they should. To where it's like I overread something that doesn't necessarily matter, but it's just this is just kind of this was a stew of a game that was designed for the Mavericks to lose, and they still had a chance to win it. Okay. Right. That's what I kind of that's if I had a positive takeaway, they didn't get ran off the floor for 36 minutes. They played pretty good basketball for about 10 minutes. They played mediocre basketball for about 30 minutes, and then they got destroyed in 8 minutes.
Yeah. I mean, it was the Wizards game. They rest on their laurels a lot. It's just what they do, and the Pacers were not going to let them. You just can't do that against Rick Carlisle, and
that's right.
Good team. So
yeah.
But I'll talk to you soon. I'll get off, get some other people a chance.
Shoot me an email. Talk soon, all right?
I will. Bye, Kirk.
All right. Last but not least is going to be my man, Micah. Micah, welcome to the stage, man. What's up?
What's going on, Kirk? Hey, first I got to ask you a question.
Sure.
The place where you got that Deshaun Stevenson shirt, did they have the final shirt that he made that says, "How's my dirt taste"?
No, it's one of these places where the guy basically, when you look at the shirts that he makes, and I'll go message me about it later, and I'll go find it. The way he pulls out the pictures, they don't have the full logo. They don't have the NBA sign anywhere to where you can't officially tell that it's a real NBA shirt because it's not. Like he doesn't have the rights to do this. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. I've been looking for that shirt for so long, and I can't find it anywhere.
Well, I'll see if I have the guy's link somewhere, and I'll send it to you because it's amazing.
Yeah, but God, how many times are we going to have to talk about the Timmy conundrum?
I mean, and eventually they'll just, I think he'll shoot his way out of this. But then the question becomes does Kidd actually rely on him in a playoff game? And that's the part that I don't see as being real. Like, I have a lot of Kidd criticisms, but like, you are not like, that's honestly playing Tim Hardaway 30 minutes in a playoff game with the options that Mavericks have. That's how you get fired. Like, and I don't see him being that stupid.
It's just like, I have this feeling that he wants Tim to be Jason Terry so bad, but in all honesty, he's more like the Cook version of Peja that we had.
Yeah. I don't know if it's that bad, but it's like he's so lost on defense. That's the part that's painful.
Yeah, it's like, I know it's just, it's for whatever reason he doesn't want to try Hardy, and I get it.
It's like Hardy's mistakes are somehow like are somehow more egregious than Tim's mistakes, and I'm not sure I agree with that.
No, they're not. They're not. I'm sorry. It's just like, if I'm looking at the overall play, it's just like, I'm saying, okay, I think Hardy is a more versatile scorer. I think he's a better ball handler. I think he's a better defender. I don't think, and it's just like, I had this conversation earlier. It's just like, when I was going back and forth with somebody about Tim, and the conversation of Christian Wood came up, and I was like, okay, do y'all understand why Christian Wood wasn't getting minutes? Because I do. I want to see if y'all do. And of course, I couldn't get right answers. This kid being a jerk or whatever. And I said, all right, this is the reason he didn't get minutes.
That's right.
He wouldn't defend. He killed the flow of the offense. And I ended that off with, how does that description not fit Tim right now?
Yeah. Yeah.
He can't move the ball. He can't defend. He kills the flow of the offense. He's not a versatile scorer. It's just, I don't know. I mean, are we just looking at it are we just looking at a situation where we just got to survive till the off season and just moneyball Tim away from the kid?
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see what happens. I don't know, man.
It's tough. It's tough. I seen some people that was, look, I want PJ to be better on offense, and I'll agree he had a tough offensive night or whatever, but at the end of the day, it's just like, he's still doing his job. You know, Pascal averages 22 points a game. He had 12 tonight.
Yeah.
So I'm not really worried about somebody's offense if you can impact the game in other ways. It's just like, but you got this guy that we're forced to play no matter what the situation is, and I don't know. Hopefully that changes when Dante comes back. Like because I'm looking at it, and if I'll say this one thing, the one optimistic thing I can have about Kidd is he's always going to play the better defender over the offensive player.
That's right.
It's just,
that's his nature.
That's his MO. Like, he is going to play the guy that averages 10 and defends over the guy that averages 18 and doesn't. That's just his MO.
Well, my man, thanks for hanging out with us once again.
Oh, anytime, Kurt.
All right, see you next game. Tuesday, early game.
Tuesday.
Early games.
Nice. When's the next game?
Tuesday. Tuesday, Wednesday.
Yeah. No, I'm talking about time. 6 o'clock. Nice.
There's a whole string of games until like mid-March that all start at great times for me personally.
Fantastic.
That's right.
Fantastic. 5 o'clock comes early.
That's exactly right. All right, man. We'll talk soon, okay?
All right. Have a good one, Kirk.
You too, buddy. All right, I'm going to head out for the night. Thanks so much. This has been 100 minutes of Mavs talk with me. Those of you who are watching on the live stream, very much appreciate you. Those who are listening on on audio applications, please consider joining us. We have fun in this one. This has been Kirk Henderson. I'm editor-in-chief over at Mavs Moneyball, and this has been Pod Mavericks Group Therapy. Everyone have a great week. We'll talk to you on Tuesday. Bye, guys.